Hello everybody, my name is Lat Mackey and this is Sequence Break IL, a look at speedrunning, game development, content creation, and everything in between. Thanks so much for being here, thanks for watching and listening and all of that fun stuff. As this episode is being recorded at the very beginning of 2023, I thought it'd be kind of fun to look back at the games that I played, some of the speedrunning I did, and even actually this time some hardware stuff, just some things that I did in gaming in 2022. And this is definitely inspired by the folks at My Life in Gaming, but then also I think you've seen others probably do something like this. And I did one last year, and I think it's I really enjoy watching other people share the games that they played with and interacted with in the previous year, because sometimes it's led to some games that I've tried myself. In fact, some of the games I tried in 2022 were because I saw about people's best of lists or games that they had played the previous year. So maybe there's something here for you, maybe not. Maybe you just want to hear my thoughts on some of the games. I have no idea, but in really no particular order, I'm just going to start running through some games that I played in 2022. And it's not all the games. And in fact, very few, I don't know if I played any modern games or games that were released in 2022, but I do have a list of stuff. Before I get to it, I wanted to point out some of the speedrunning. I actually didn't do very much speedrunning in 2022. And I'm looking at my SRC profile here, speedrun.com profile, and I only have, let's see, 4 submitted runs in 2022. And there's Rondo of Blood, I guess I PB'd in Maria, the Maria only category. In Alice in Wonder Dream, I had 2 BBs in the 90% and Warpless categories. And that's actually the game I'm going to be grinding at the very beginning of the year here, because I will be doing a charity marathon on Junkyard Dave's stream to help raise money for cancer research. And also there's been some awesome new tech discovered in Alice in Wonder Dream. So I am very excited. We'll be shaving some minutes off of that time. And then the other game that I picked up that I'm still very much in the learning process and am returning to, in fact, I played it just a couple days ago, Zelda 2. And this is actually the Famicom Disk System version, and enjoying that game so much. Glad that I finally started to pick up playing that game a little bit quicker. My current PB stands at 1 hour and 31 minutes, which isn't necessarily a speed run quite yet, but we're getting closer. At least I'm going to get closer, but plan to do a fair amount of speedrunning as much as I can. And I really found myself actually playing a lot more casual games in 2022, first playthroughs, things like that. And the list is quite extensive and quite long, but there's a lot of games that I would like to talk about. Okay. And the first thing is a game that, let's see if I can do this live. Here we go. Okay. This is one of the games I played earlier on in the year, and this is Bayonetta. And if you've never played Bayonetta, wow, what a game. How do you describe Bayonetta? I didn't play through the whole thing, but you basically just feel like a badass for a few, every fight that you encounter. There's so many abilities and different types of attacks, and the storyline is completely wild. I don't even know how to describe it, and I don't remember a lot about the storyline itself, but I remember the characters really being larger than life, and there's a lot of funny and interesting situations you get into. And I played this on the Wii U, and that's one of the things I think I wanted to point out here is that if you're at all into collecting, or if you're at all into, picking up games for a little bit less expensive, most of the time when I play a game, I've bought it on sale or I buy a used copy of it. And the Wii U right now is still very reasonable comparing it to other systems. So, the Switch version of Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 and stuff might be like $60 for the new game or $50 or whatever. And I think I picked up Bayonetta and many other Wii U games for $30 and less sometimes. So and the Wii U is not a console I had when it came out. So if you're looking for some good deals in gaming and still some great games to play, check out the Wii U. This led me down a path, and we'll get to a little bit later on, that I really, I'm glad I did, because there's this whole library of games I never played, and they're reasonably priced right now. For the most part, they're reasonably priced right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see some of the gameplay that I'm doing as we go along here. Then I played through a game called Deathloop, which was a first-person shooter game with a really cool, interesting mechanic that has this like time travel mechanic. It's like Groundhog's Day, but for a video game. So you just keep waking up and replaying the levels, but you learn something new every single time. It's very cool. Really enjoyed it. Haven't played through the whole thing, but got through more than half of it. Really enjoyed that. And randomly, I ended up doing a Portal replay through. Portal I can't believe how well that game still holds up. And I'm hoping this year to do a replay of Portal 2. And then that leads me to, let's see, hopefully I got the next video of this. Okay, so this is the video you're looking at right now. If you're watching the YouTube video, is Doom 2. And I played a bunch of Doom Eternal this year, which was super fun, first person shooter. It's interesting that a modern game gives me nostalgia and it feels like what it was like to play the original Doom back in the day when it came out when I was a little kid. And I think Doom Eternal's done a really great job of capturing that. But, there's no way to talk about this without just, this absolute tragedy that Russian forces invaded Ukraine this year and is still ongoing in 2022. And to help raise money for it, the original level creator of Doom, John Romero, actually released a custom level, a custom mod for Doom 2. And he did it to raise funds for the efforts in Ukraine, the humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. And the level itself, it's called One Humanity. It's still available. I believe you get it through John's site and you can still donate to the cause and everything like that. It's totally fun. It doesn't take very long to play through, but it's just, if you have played any sort of Doom or Doom 2 in the last, 10, 15, 20 years, you know how easy it is to just pop on a custom level, custom WADs and things like that. The process of it is super simple, and had a ton of fun playing through this level. It only took me about an hour. Probably if you're any good at Doom 2, it'll probably take you about a half an hour, but it's super fun. I highly recommend it. Okay, I remember what order I put all of this stuff in. Okay, so here's the next thing I want to talk about. And this is going to be a little bit on the hardware side of things. I got a few consoles this year. And this first one is, well, you can just see it right here. This is the Oculus Quest 2. And I think a lot of people picked them up. They were reasonably priced. I actually got mine $50 off so mine was only $250. And nowadays they're a little bit more expensive. I think they're $400 now. I hesitated quite a bit to jump into virtual reality. Number one, I'm not a Facebook person. So not a big fan of giving my money to Facebook and having to have a Facebook account and all that kind of stuff to make this thing work. But I also don't have unlimited funds. So this was the most reasonably priced VR device to play some of the games that you can play on the console. Do we call it a console? The platform, whatever you want to call VR. And I gotta say, I enjoyed VR a lot more than I thought I would. I get motion sick very easy, so it did concern me. And what made me jump in is actually, of all things, GDQ. One of the last times we had a GDQ in person before coming back this year was they had a VR setup, and they have some really interesting ways for people who get motion sick to enjoy VR. One of them is by not having you move. They limit the movement and the motion and things like that. And it's actually a really enjoyable experience. At first, I couldn't play for about more than a half an hour. And then as I started playing other games and stuff like that, I was able to go a little bit longer. And nowadays, I can get an hour to 2 hours of playing and not getting sick on this thing. There are some games I still will get sick with, but some of the games that I've really enjoyed playing on it, Half-Life Alyx, the Half-Life game is absolutely amazing and is basically worth the price of admission for this thing. It's absolutely incredible. And I haven't beaten the whole or played through the whole game, but just the experience and having some space and doing it with the things is it's really fun. It's really amazing. And for a guy like me who is, I'm into sci-fi. I really like going to places this is like that next step. Like you feel like you're inside of a video game. It does a really good job of doing that. And this thing works so well that it makes you feel like you're inside the game. That's all. And a world like Half-Life, it's just so well done, so interesting. And I know the higher end headsets, the graphics get better. But even just for this thing, I found the graphics to be quite good. And that actually leads me to something that I spent a little bit of time with. And if you're watching the video right now, you already know there are a bunch of ways you can sideload things on this. And one of them is emulators. And you're looking right now at a Virtual Boy emulator. And it doesn't necessarily do it justice. I only played Virtual Boy a few times in the original console. And this honestly felt like that. There's the depth, there's all of that goes along with it. And it absolutely feels like you're playing the original Virtual Boy, except it's a lot more comfortable. And I didn't get headaches or anything like that. It worked out pretty well, but tons of fun. And what a great way to use a $300 console or $400 console by playing, games that are 20 or 30 years old. Why not? There's a ton of emulators for it, which is pretty impressive to see a community supporting it. A lot of Doom 2 stuff and other things like that. Another game that I really enjoyed was the Star Wars games on it. And of course, Beat Saber. Beat Saber is awesome. So much fun. Great way to, get a little cardio going in. I mean, there's just so many great things about it, and have had I still play the thing. I've had it now for a year, or almost a year, I guess. And I continue to actually play quite a bit of the VR stuff. I will say, I don't know if it has a future, to be honest with you. As a gamer, I really enjoy it as a gaming platform. I don't know other applications, the social stuff and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. I really play it for the games. So there we go. There we have it on that. Now, I mentioned this earlier that I've been speedrunning a lot. I had done a fair amount of trying to speedrun Zelda 2, still learning a lot about it. But that actually leads me to the next thing that really 2022 felt like for me. And that is this little device right here, which many of you probably know about it because I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. This is the Mister, and this is my Mister. And I got to tell you, it is the console that I have played the most this year. And I love it. It's definitely kind of fun, and I've enjoyed collecting some of the older consoles and things like that. But this little device right here has literally replaced everything else that I play on. I still play PC games, and you'll see later on in some Switch games and things like that. But all of my retro gaming is done on this thing. And because I enjoy a lot of retro games, and there's so many I haven't played yet, I find myself going to this thing. There has not been a week that has gone by this year that I didn't turn on the Mister and play. The console support keeps improving almost on a daily basis. I did a little bit of the PlayStation gaming on here, but all of my Zelda 2 Famicom Disk System runs and plays have been on the Mister, and it improves the loading times quite a bit if you're playing on the Famicom Disk System. And also I haven't had my NES for quite a while. It's a friend is repairing it, so this thing has just been awesome. And I can't say enough about it. And I know they're not as easy to come by. I think that's getting a little bit better. And I know they're still quite pricey. That's the other part about this. I know these things are pricey, but there's so much gaming. The amount of consoles you would have to buy just to support all this stuff is unreal. So highly, big fan of the Mister. As you've probably seen, I've done episodes on the podcast about it before and all that kind of fun stuff. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying speedrunning or learning Zelda 2 and all the ins and outs. And I didn't play as many ROM hacks this year of Zelda 2, but enjoyed the getting to play the vanilla game as much as I have. And I've been playing it off a stream. I really enjoy everything about Zelda 2. I have become that nerd. I am totally a Zelda 2 nerd. Have no problem admitting it. Okay, getting back to the Wii U, here's a game I really enjoyed, NES Remix. Have you ever played NES Remix? And I believe there's a Game Boy or a 3DS version of it as well, or a DS version, but holy crap, is this game fun. The only way I would describe it is like it uses parts of games you recognize as you're looking at, like Donkey Kong right now, and it creates quick objectives for you to earn coins or whatever. I can't write these coins or whatever it is to move to the next stage. And there's Zelda. There's tons of different stages that exist in NES Remix. And if I can find one right here, where it takes a new take on classic games and really makes it a ton of fun. And I don't know, highly recommend. I had a bunch of fun. I haven't played through all of the levels yet, but it's easy. Once again, it's very reasonably priced because it was such as popular as Wii U games got. So there you go. NES Remix, do it. Check it out. Okay, here is an interesting game that I had known about for quite a while, but never had a chance to play. And it didn't come out here in the States. This is Bonk's Adventure, but on the GameCube. And so PC Engine would be the way it's referred to. And I was playing this on the Dolphin emulator because I don't have a Japanese or any GameCube to begin with. And it is kind of like, it's almost like a mastering remake-ish. There are definitely levels and bosses that were not in the original, but then they reference quite a lot of the original levels in Bonk's Adventure. And I'm trying to play through all of the Bonk's Adventures on every console it exists on. And I did want to go purchase this one, like, hey, I have it. And it turns out that it's like a couple $100. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll hold it. I don't even have a way to play it. So playing it on Dolphin was a great way to do it. And if you're at all fan of the Bonk series, which, all three of us, then you might enjoy this game. For the rest of you, I don't know. So, but that also leads to another Bonk's Adventure I got to play this year, which is on the Amiga. And thank you, Mister, for making that possible, because I don't have an Amiga. Didn't even really know much about the Amiga. Have relied on the information from strangers and Google and friends and all that kind of stuff to understand. And it's actually a pretty decent port of the game. And so if you're into Bonk's Adventure and you want actually a little bit more, I guess, what's the original version? The NEC, the TurboGrafx 16 version? I think that is. This one's pretty close to it. There are some compromises made. One of being the controller. The controller's a little weird on Amiga to set up right away. But besides that, it's the sound. The music is great, and as you can see, the visuals are very colorful. The Amiga seems. I kind of want to dive in more into the Amiga library, but I know there's tons. And so the Mister does such a great job of emulating it that I'm looking forward to jumping into more of the Amiga. Maybe this year, maybe next year. Who the heck knows? Okay, and that leads to another game that was suggested to me by somebody, and I think it might have been Alaskan Emily, actually, who's one of the moderators for my live streams. And this is The Binding of Isaac. And I haven't played a ton of roguelikes, in fact, very few of them, and I'm going to be playing more of them. And this is a game that it has the feel of Zelda. That's the best way I can put it. It kind of looks like, the perspective is similar to Zelda 1. The controls remind me a lot about Zelda, but definitely some other games as well. And I know it's an older game, or it's been released a while ago, but it is addicting. When once you die, the run is over. It just starts over again. It's a complete, it's procedurally generated or whatever. So it's a new playthrough every single time. And this game rewards you for being patient, but then also being aggressive at the same time. The graphics are just totally disgusting at times, and that adds to the charm of the game, which I know is a weird thing to say. The storyline is very dark, and so just beware if you're a little bit squeamish or if you're a little bit uncomfortable with things like that. But man, did I have a good time playing this game, and it's a game I've continued to play a little bit off of stream as well. Still haven't finished the game. Still have not finished a run where I actually beat the game, and yet it still keeps me coming back, which is going to lead, to a little bit later when I talk about one of the games I ended the the year with. So Binding of Isaac, pretty fun, pretty cool. Okay, this is a game that I saw on, I believe it was either GameSack or My Life in Gaming, one of the retrospectives. And this is a game called Exile, and this is playing it on the TurboGrafx 16 CD. Now I actually, once again, played it on the Mister. One, because I don't have the disc, but then two, I don't have a CD attachment to my TurboGrafx 16. So you just saw the Mister screen pop up there if you're watching the video. I guess the way to describe this is it's this kind of RPG-ish game. There are definitely some leveling up systems and things like that. And you get this overhead perspective in the worldview, but then you go into dungeons, similar to like original Zelda, or maybe even a little bit of like mixing Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. As you'll see here, you're now in a side platforming perspective, and you've got a sword and shield, and there's items to upgrade. And it was an enjoyable game, except that I had a little bit of a problem early on. At the beginning of the game, I kept dying in the first dungeon. I just literally could not get past the first dungeon. So I grinded up. I grinded up my character. I did like 15 or 20 minutes of grinding to level up my character so that he was a little bit more powerful as I went through the rest of the game. And the rest of the game then was really like no challenge at all, which is really interesting. I guess I over-leveled my character in that 15 to 20 minutes. And so the final boss only took me like a few hits. And even during the stream, I was like, is that the way this is supposed to be? And maybe that's intended. I'm not 100% sure. I know that there are differences in the difficulties between the North American and the Japanese version. And so I'm wondering if maybe, I'm not going to go back and try it again, but it was kind of interesting. If you're looking for something that's different, or you're maybe looking to try things out on your TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine, I'd give it a try. The graphics are really cool. There's some decent music. The storyline is sort of interesting. So it may be something you want to check out. And I don't really have much more to say about it. It's a game, I guess. I'm going to leave it on screen while I talk about the next couple of games. I played a lot of MLB The Show and PGA 2K21, which I'm not the biggest sports person, but those games, I got them on sale once again, played, and they hooked me. I do like golf games a lot. I play a ton of golf games. I speedrun golf games. I really like golf games for some reason. And PGA 2K21 is actually a lot of fun and really interesting. And I haven't played like a modern golf game in probably 10 years. So it was kind of nice, I think, probably to jump back into something more modern and, try to grind your way through, do the tour, that kind of thing. MLB The Show is just like, it's a baseball game and it's fun. I keep playing it. I'm still playing it right now. I'm doing the Road to the Show, and I haven't finished the Road to the Show yet, but that's like a career mode type of thing. And it just skips you to the good parts, like where you actually have to field, where you have to hit. It's fun. I don't know. I don't know what else to say to it. Here is one of the games that I would say was one of my favorite games of the year. And this isn't my gameplay. I do want to shout out. This is Sunny Muffin, who was on the podcast. This is Tunic. And it's kind of a mix of like Zelda games, very much homaging Zelda games, but then it has this like really challenging difficulty to it. And it's got this really fun mechanic where you learn secrets of the game through like an old school instruction manual they used to get, when you bought an NES game or a Game Boy game. There was on the screen right there. And so this game charmed the crap out of me. Still haven't gotten the true ending yet. And on top of that, this game is hard. It's really challenging. You're going to die a lot if you play through it, but it's so rewarding and it feels so good in the fingers to play. It's got a really unique perspective to it. It does everything right in a game. And I think that's what I love about it so much. It's a game I'm probably going to return to at some point. Be interested if they do DLC for the game. I'm not sure, but it was at GDQ over the summer, SGDQ, and it's really good. It's really fun. If you get a chance, it's going to take you time. I'm trying to think how much it took me to get through the first story, 20 or 30 hours at least. And so it's really good. And I did have to check the internet a couple times because it's fun to try to find some of the stuff on your own, but a couple times I just got flat out stumped in this game. So it's got that puzzly elements to it, and at the same time is like challenging through its combat and things like that. So Tunic, one of my favorite games of the year. That's a game released in 2022. So there you go. Really fun, really great. Can't thank the developers enough for making this game, and looking forward to what they do next, because this is really a lot of fun, really great. Okay, the next one we're going to also look at. This is Gymnast. Okay, so this is Gymnast's speedrun of Skyward Sword, because I didn't record my gameplay of this, and I played Skyward Sword HD this year, and I still haven't gotten all the way through it, which is very rare for me on a Zelda game. When I play through a Zelda game, I usually play through it all the way. And I think the HD remake, or whatever, the remaster, whatever they're calling it, is really great. For a game that came out on the Wii, it looks quite good for a Switch port or an HD, a remaster, whatever they're going to call it. The controls are a little weird because the game itself, you're playing with the nunchuck and the Wiimote. And so how do you translate that over to the Switch? A lot of games have been pretty decent. I think they actually do a good job. I'd prefer to play Zelda games, using a controller. And so your sword, on the right thumbstick, that's your sword action instead of like pressing A or B. And it takes a little bit to get used to that, but it's actually okay. I'm not going to say it's great, but it's okay. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't keep coming back to the game. I'm not quite sure. I'm in the fourth dungeon, the third dungeon. I can't remember at this point because I put it down for a couple months now. The dungeons are awesome. The dungeons are really great in this game. It's kind of the stuff that's around that I wasn't as engaged in as I have been in other Zelda games. And if you listen to the podcast for any amount of time, you know that the Zelda series is by far my favorite series of games. And I love the puzzle aspects, the platforming, the action to it, the stories. I love all of that kind of stuff. And I think just the stuff that was around the dungeons in this game just hasn't sucked me in as much. But there are some things that I love the colors, and the music is great. The sound is awesome. The controls are, they're ported. They're not quite, it makes me actually, maybe I should just go back and try the Wii game itself. But maybe I'll have more to say if I actually finish it in 2023. I don't know. We'll see. But, if it's on sale, it might be worth a try for you. If you're a Zelda person, you probably already picked it up and are giving it a try. So there we go. Now, here is some Zelda that I have been enjoying a lot. And this is Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. And I've been doing this on the Mister, but I'm going to be switching pretty soon and you'll see why. But I played through all of Seasons on stream, and Ages I'm playing through currently on stream. And it might be some of my favorite Zelda is the Link's Awakening Oracle of the Game Boy Zeldas. They are just so good, so much fun. They use every aspect of like the Zelda world to make the game interesting and challenging. The puzzles I found in Seasons weren't too bad. I have found the puzzles much more challenging in Ages. But I love some of this like 2D platforming side view stuff that you see on screen right now. I've just loved everything about it. Great sound. The music has just been so good. I can't believe the graphics. And if you're playing, if you're able to find a way to scale this, these graphics scale really well. So you can play it on a TV screen and it looks great. It's just everything about the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons I've enjoyed. And if I had to just pick, what's your game of 2022? It's probably going to be Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, just because it's a game I'm going to play again. And it would be awesome if they do remasters of these or remakes or whatever the hell they want to call them, like they did with Link's Awakening. I would absolutely play that on day one. And there's just everything I love about a video game is in these games. The storylines are funny and silly. They have some really good challenges in them. The one drawback that I have is that you see my character jumping on screen right now. You have to map that to a button. If the Game Boy had just two more buttons, like the L and the R screen buttons or X and Y, that'd be the only thing that's holding this thing back from just like pure perfection. But even with those limitations, it's absolutely worth playing the games and spending the 40 hours it takes. It took me to, maybe it was 30 something hours. It's probably gonna take me about the same time for Ages. So there you go. Okay, the next one is a game that only took me a couple of hours, but I played Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2020, whenever it came out. I played it when it first came out, but I didn't play the DLC for the Integrate version because I don't have a PlayStation 5, but it did come out on PC this year. So I believe I waited for it to go on sale, but just like everything else from Square Enix, I have purchased another version of a Final Fantasy game. I tell you, Square Enix has got me, and maybe I need to just take a stand and stop doing this, but I literally probably at this point have paid for 2 to 3 versions of all of the Final Fantasy games that I've ever played. So way to go, Square, you win. But there's this DLC where you play as this character, Yuffie, and I fell in love with the character and the 2 hours or 3 hours that I spent playing the DLC. It wasn't a long campaign or level or anything by this. I think it's just a single chapter. Maybe it's 2 chapters, but man, is it a ton of fun. And I really hope to hell that Yuffie shows up in whatever next chapter is of Final Fantasy VII Remake. For those that didn't play through the remake or don't know anything about Final Fantasy VII, they remade it and they actually it's only like the first part of the original game. And so I hope we get a chance to see her character and her abilities later on, because this was just a lot of fun. 2 or 3 hours, super easy to get through, and I wanted to play it more. I'm like, dang it, can I go use Yuffie? I'm going to replay the game now, and I want to add Yuffie to my party. Unfortunately, not available yet. So maybe they'll do that in the next one. I don't know, but tons of fun with the few hours that I spent with Final Fantasy VII Remake, Integrate, and it looks good in 4K and all the blah, blah, blah stuff if you've got access to that. Okay. This is Brian Otto's speedrun of Titanfall 2, but this was in my top 5 games that I played this year. And I know Titanfall 2 came out quite a long time ago, and I didn't speedrun or anything. This was just a casual first playthrough of me, for me. I didn't record my gameplay, so that's why we're watching Bry's his last PB of the game. But This game is a lot of fun. It's not a very long playthrough. I think it's like 6 to 10 hours, probably somewhere in there. But the controls are just so good and so fun. And they just nailed the way a game like this should feel. I don't play a ton of first-person shooters, but they've got to feel good because I'm not very good at the shooting aspect of them. I don't have the sight and the coordination to line up things, pinpoint accuracy like the people who do competitive gaming and all those kind of things. So there's a bunch of other stuff that you get to do in Titanfall 2. And for those that never played, you play as this character who you have a mech companion that when you get inside, you get all these like superhuman abilities. And the way that the game melds and meshes the challenges with using your own character and the mech itself is just really great, really fun, never overly challenging, but always a good challenge. And I was able to if I'm able to beat a first person shooter game, that means it's actually probably not too hard. And I appreciated that. So the movement is super fun. There's all these different things you can do, sliding and weapons and all these different types of mechs you can get and upgrades and stuff like that. And it's just a really great mix and match of all those great things. I can't recommend it enough if you've, especially because it goes on sale a lot. So if you can pick it up on sale, there is a multiplayer aspect to it and stuff like that. And I can't remember how this engine I know has been used other places. And I can't remember all the details and stuff like that. But the single player campaign for me was worth the price. Totally a lot of fun. Had a great time playing it. Also played some Red Dead Redemption 2 and taking it slowly because it's kind of an open world. You just choose your own what quest you want to go on. There's a main story and a main campaign and all that kind of stuff, but I actually really enjoy it. And I'll have more to say once I play through the main story. So that'll be a 2023 as we do it. And that leads to one of the games that I played later on towards the end of the year. And as you can see, it's Hollow Knight. Yes, I know I've waited this long to play through Hollow Knight. I'm hoping I can do an episode of this on the podcast. Hollow Knight is really great. I haven't even beaten it yet. I'm 12 hours in now, and it's one of those games I haven't put down. I'm not going to lie. If I had time to game during the holidays, I usually picked up this game or the game that I'm going to talk about next. And it just feels really good. I love the graphics and the ambiance and the atmosphere that it creates. The development team they put I obviously can tell they put a lot of effort and love into the way the game feels, the way the game plays, the way the game looks. And what hasn't been said about Hollow Knight at this point? It's on a lot of people's favorite game list for a reason. The speedrunning community for it is incredible. There's just a ton of people who have submitted times for it. And after playing it, I now understand why. It's just everything about it just feels and plays really great. And if you are always looking for, I find the challenges to be fair too. I've already died a lot in it, and yet it hasn't been discouraging. Not yet, at least. Some of the enemies, I wish I could understand how they work a little bit quicker. But besides that, or like the bosses and things like that. But besides that, it's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to continue playing it and finishing it out this year because I'm absolutely going to finish this game. It's just too good not to. Okay, so that leads me to something that came in the mail towards the end of in December of 2022, and that is this thing right here, which is the Analog Pocket. And there's been a ton of reviews on the Analog Pocket. I don't think I need to do that for you here, but I can tell you that it definitely kind of lives up to the hype. I ordered mine, pre-ordered probably like many, if you have this, probably over a year ago. And it's awesome. They recently, in the last few months have opened up they have their FPGA core, so you can like emulate, every console that's available on it right now, which is NES, Genesis, Game Boy, many of the popular 8 and 16-bit consoles here in the States or North America and other places. And being able to play those games with a beautiful looking screen is really awesome. And it's been the thing between this and Hollow Knight have been the two things I haven't played anything else really except this and Hollow Knight. And what I've been playing on this is kind of fun. So I sold my Game Boy Advance at some point, probably when I needed to move out or make rent or something like that. I'm sure that's why that console got sold. So I did buy one a couple of years ago. So I do have the EverDrive for it, and it just pops right in. And going through the library of Game Boy Advance games and Game Boy Color games, I never had a Game Boy Color growing up, has just been a ton of fun. And the last game of this year that I have played that has really kind of captured my imagination, and I only have one more, I have the final boss to do, has been this game right here, Klonoa Empire of Dreams. And I had never even heard of a Klonoa game until this one. Yes, call me dumb, but this does such an interesting and cool thing. And I'm going to speed ahead here. There's some cool cutscenes and stuff, but the best way to describe Klonoa on the Game Boy Advance is that it's a platforming game with puzzle elements to it. It almost feels like a puzzle game first, because the platforming isn't too challenging. What makes the game super interesting is these puzzles you have to complete, and you have to use different items and enemies and creatures in different ways, as jumps and as moving things and stopping waterfalls and changing air and changing the orientation of a room and all that kind of stuff. And it is just really fun. I probably beat the game. I'm going to beat the game tonight, and it just took me 3 days. So there's 5 worlds. Had a ton of fun with it. Gonna definitely jump into Klonoa 2. And I just have a lot of fun playing the Game Boy Advance version of this. Now, it kind of makes me think, should I go back and check out the original on the PlayStation? Because I have seen that, and it's slightly different elements to it. But my understanding is they did a really good job with porting the original Klonoa to the handheld console. So I just have fallen in love with the game, really like it a lot, and I highly recommend if you're looking for something like that. The only thing else I wanted to mention for 2022 is I admitted to myself that I do enjoy collecting some of the video games. And the way that I started out doing this is, if I was going to speedrun a game, I thought it was important to own the original cartridge or the original disc or whatever the original might be, so that I could play that version of it. And as you start to speedrun more games, that collection gets bigger and bigger. And at some point, you just got to admit to yourself, hey, you know what? You're probably a collector. And I didn't pick up too many games in 2022, but I did spend the most I've ever spent for a game. And Castlevania Rondo of Blood is one of my favorite games. I love it. I love the speedrun. I love everything about it. And I have always avoided buying the disc on the TurboGrafx 16 because it usually goes for about $180 on eBay. And I finally pulled the trigger. I was able to find what I thought was a copy in decent enough shape for, I think I ended up spending about $125 on it. And that's the most I've ever paid for a game. So I know, I don't know what that says about me as a collector or not, but it was the first game that I definitely really kind of like lusted after a little bit, which sounds kind of weird, but a game I wanted in my collection. And can't wait to finally have a CD attachment to my TurboGrafx 16 to actually play that disc, because I can't play it right now. I'm kind of waiting for Analog to release the Analog Duo, but then also pick up a disc console for myself. And excited to have that in the collection, not gonna lie. So I picked up some other games this year, but most of them are very inexpensive. I don't spend a ton on games because I don't get to play them, for a while. And so but that one was the first one, and that's when I officially, okay, I should probably consider myself a collector at this point. Anyway, that being said, look at that ton of games that I got a chance to play. Maybe there's something in there that you'd like to give a try. A lot of stuff planned for 2023. I shouldn't say planned, but stuff I would like to get to for the podcast. So I do hope you stick around and you stay subscribed. And hopefully, thanks for your patience, as I know I've tried to go every week and I haven't been able to. But I am pretty happy with a lot of the content that has come out. For just to talk a little bit behind the scenes, the podcast did the best it's ever done this year. And it's really nice that has happened, that people have found it. And I know that I still don't do a very good job of promoting the podcast and all that other kind of stuff. I can't guarantee I'm going to get any better at that. I just enjoy meeting people and talking about games and stuff like that. So that's really what's going to stay at the core of this podcast. But I do hope there are so many games that I want to get to and so many projects that I would like to. In fact, one of them I didn't even mention, Ancient Dungeon, will be an episode that comes out here in January. But had a great time playing Zelda Ancient Dungeon, which if you haven't played that, it's like this roguelike for Zelda 1. It's super fun. And that was one of the last games that I played in 2022 as well. So hoping to keep everything going, finding new things. I know speedrunning is always changing. My interests are always changing. So I wish I had a better like approach to the podcast other than like, hey, whatever looks and sound like I enjoyed, whatever I think is fun and cool. But if you've ever, that's one of the things, if you ever have some feedback or there's something that you'd like to see me pursue or see the podcast take a look at, please feel free. I do have some projects on the list of things I would like to get to. I don't know if I will, so I don't want to talk about them quite yet. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. And if there's some games you had or you enjoyed in 2022, feel free, share them. I'm always looking for game recommendations. It may take me 10 years to get to them, but you know, that's the great thing about gaming right now is that hopefully it'll still be there by the time I have time to play it. So thanks again. Hope you enjoy your 2023 and hope you find some games you like as well. I wish I had more to say, but it's been as challenging as 2022 has been for a lot of us, the things that are happening in the world and stuff. Gaming seems to still put a smile on my face, and I hope it brings you a bit of joy into your life as well. So here's to a bunch more episodes, a bunch more video games, and a fun and prosperous 2023 if possible. Okay, have a good one, folks. I'll see you in the next one.